Cooties!
Hey everybody, how's it going? We are back. We made it. We haven't canceled ourselves yet, but we are 10 episodes deep into Unleash the Podcast officially. So the first insignificant milestone that we made up for ourselves has been reached. Congratulations to you, John.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
I'd like to donate this record. No.
So John has a computer again.
Ha! I do.
It's real life.
Cough one. I hope Matt Pagel wasn't your choice.
Nope, it wasn't. We won't be stumping you with Pagel today, but there is a legendary on tap again for Stump the Blevins. Anyways, we have got a lot to talk about. We've got very possibly the most boring Black Ring Mountain Wing to recap. And quite possibly, and by quite possibly, I mean absolutely the most exciting wing to preview. So,
Yes.
we're not faking our excitement anymore. This week it's real. So we'll be bringing that to you guys short. John, I want to talk to you about your experience so far since we haven't actually done it on the official show. You've been participating in the NVIDIA Pro-Am tournament.
Yes, this is true.
And yeah, you're doing pretty well. So talk to me about. I mean, we've had some conversations off stream, but tell the listeners what you've experienced so far with that, and we'll start there.
Yeah. So this tournament, it's more of a league, I guess. I'm pretty sure it's 8 weeks. You play one match each week. It's best of 5 Blizzard Conquest format, which I've kind of noticed a lot of these lower level tournaments. Have kind of shifted to it. It's almost all, from everything I've seen, just shifted to Blizzard Conquest format, or BlizzCon Conquest. I don't know what it's called. The one where you just have to win with the deck once and then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of become the mainstay. So you know they schedule your match each week and you play a best of 5. That's about it. The first week was a complete and utter disaster for them and for everyone that participated. The website that you use to like set up the matches was not working, and at least I didn't figure that out until about an hour later. So I basically figured that I thought that I had forfeit my match. And that was really frustrating. So I emailed them and they're like, "Oh, there's issues, whatever." Rescheduled the match, played it, whatever. And by played it, I mean my opponent didn't show up, and I got a free win the first week. And then every week after that has been completely, pain-free. The way it works is you go on and you sign in on the website, which pretty much everything is on this website. You sign in, and by that I mean, or you check in. You pick your 3 decks, and then when your opponent picks their 3 decks at whatever time the match is at, you can play your match. And I've had a couple issues with my opponent not really knowing what was going on. Like, they played the wrong deck, so they got a game loss. But then I crushed them afterwards, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, I'm 4-0. And this week I added my opponent already, so I get to see what I'm playing against, and this is the first legend I'm playing against. So this might be week 1 basically.
It's all downhill from here, boys.
It's all down here. 4-0 to 4-4, easiest losses ever. But no, he's like rank 800 or something, like just scrub Blevins level legend scrub.
Gotcha. So clearly, honestly, like there's people like that are like 52% win rate. And
forever,
right, and they just happen to play a million games and play hunters so they can get them done with fast, and it's a serious strategy. If that's your goal is hit legend, then by all means do it because it works.
Yeah. And I'm not 100% sure how it breaks down. I think it cuts to like top 16 after the 8 weeks, but that kind of seemed, for like your division, I'm in the North America East one, I guess. I don't know. But the last I checked, I was like 21st place in America, so that's kind of cool. But
Pretty
there are
sweet.
also there's a non-zero number of people that are also 4-0 that literally haven't played a game yet. They just had 4 forfeits. They just got 4 free ones, which kind of stinks because it's like I have the same record as people who haven't played, but is also great because I can then get paired up against them. But of course I didn't because I'm playing against the legend. Yeah.
Right.
So that's that. I'll be playing week 5 tomorrow. And spoiler, might be streaming it. Ooh.
What?
Ah.
So much big news with that computer. Like, I'm so happy we got that done and out of the way.
Yeah.
I never have to actually see your ugly mug in person again. I can just go back to being internet friends with you, despite how close we live together.
Souvlaki, bro.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're never not coming over to my house on weekends again. You're just living here for the souvlaki.
Souvlaki and Game of Thrones, bro.
Oh man, absolutely. So yeah, we had a good time building that. That was fun. Mostly because last week in BRM we had Core Rager, Dragon Consort, Dragon Egg, Rend Black Hand, and these cards, I'm looking at the names and I don't even want to say them, Volcanic Lumber and Twilight Whelp.
Man,
So
back at this is such a miss.
oh, it was I mean, when Rend's your legendary, how good's the wing going to really be?
Yeah, they couldn't even. They just wanted to make sure that like the people like years from now, they're like, oh, I only want to buy certain wings. You don't need to buy this one. Like you just completely skip this one out. They didn't even like bait you in with like a couple cards, like maybe the Dragon Consort, but
like even that, this
Yeah.
makes this the last one because Dragon Consort's the only one you want, and you can just like hang tight and wait for it because you need to get all the other dragons for it to be
Right.
super super good.
Right.
But with that said, I did play. We're gonna very briefly talk about every card here, but we're going to talk the most about Dragon Consort right now because it's the only card here that's really constructed playable, in our opinion.
I still like Volcanic Lumber.
Yeah, John is a crackhead. I don't know what else to say. But a Dragon Consort is something that I had immediately like minimal success with. I first started playing it, and what I initially wanted to do was just kind of play like this old style Paladin control deck, and I was just screwing up the list from top to bottom. You know what I mean? I just couldn't quite build it together or put it together, and I had a lot of trouble with it. But by the end of the week, and if you were with me watching the stream on Monday, you saw I ended up having quite a bit of success with the Dragon Paladin deck. And it turned out like I ended up like 7 games in a row, I think, to close out the stream, and then I finally lost one and was able to end it without ending on a win streak, which I hate doing. I just feel like I'm never going to play well the next game when I come back, and so it's just wasted.
It's never gonna come back.
Right. So we ended up Monday like starting from scratch with a new consort deck and did poorly with it for the first 4 or 5 games. I think it was like 1-3 or 1-4, 2-3, something like that. And then I made a couple changes and then like stopped losing. So it's definitely a really interesting card, and it's only going to get better and get more tempo once you have Hungry Dragon to play. Once you are further cheapening the cost of the guy that already cheapens himself as you kill things that turn. That's where his real true value is going to be. And so he's only going to get better. But have you gotten a chance to play with Dragon Consort much, or are you just still a complete patron fanboy?
I am definitely still a Grim Patron fanboy. I actually made Garrosh the background for my computer because of Grim Patron deck. Yeah, I haven't actually played with it at all. I haven't played Paladin in a while. I haven't played it in Constructed because Paladin has been kind of boring for me. And I never play it in Arena anymore because Mage and Paladin are too easy to play in Arena, and it's just Z's. Like if I wanted to get 8 wins every time, I would play them, but
right.
I want to have fun, so I play Rogue.
So at the end of the day, I'm fairly certain Dragon Consort would be playable as the only 2 dragons in your deck.
Probably.
It becomes marginal, but it's also just completely ridiculous and stupid not to play a 3rd dragon at that point to help guarantee that you can at least chain them both into something endgame related like an Ysera, which I did play in my deck. But I don't think once in the entire time playing it I actually cast a 7-mana Ysera, because I also played Azure Drakes, and the number of times you'd get to turn 6 thinking like, well, if I just don't use use up the trigger now, I'll get to play the Ysera next turn and it'll be great. But you're looking at this
Right.
board, he's got this sizable minion out, and you're just peacekeepering it, and then you're like, Azure Drake here. Like, I've got
Right.
3 mana. What do you want me to do?
Right.
Azure Drake or hit my hero ability? It's a stupid
Right.
question. Just Azure
Yeah.
Drake. So he really did create just these incredible value turns in the middle of the game. And I just absolutely love the card. I can't wait to get access to some of this wing and the wing afters dragons to help fill out the deck a little bit. Um,
Yeah, I feel like the legendary from this uh, wing is going to be the perfect fit for that deck because of Dragon Consort, because it curves so nicely. Um, turn 5 him, turn 6 the legendary.
and just the power level of a dragon deck, like what it's drawing,
Yeah.
is just stupid. So,
Right.
but we'll talk more about that card in a little bit and why what I just said makes any sense. Core Rager did not see it played at all. It's not good. Don't bother.
Garbage.
Yep,
Nothing-
complete
nothing to
garbage.
say here.
I did see a Dragon Egg, somebody streaming with it, not actually playing with it, and it wasn't. It was actually in like mid-range to aggressive style Grim Patron deck. The streamer was having success with it. It didn't seem to me like it had anything to do with the Dragon Egg, so I don't necessarily think it's actually something worth playing. But
Yeah, the problem with it in the Grim Patron deck is that a lot of times your board is full. Like, you're filling up your board with Grim Patrons, and sometimes, like, I could make, if I had an infinite size board, I could make, like, 10 Grim Patrons or something like that, but that doesn't happen, and then you end up, having your board full, and you end up wanting to kill your, like, X1 Grim Patrons with a Whirlwind just so you
Yeah.
can add more space so that you can do more damage and play more guys. Like, this thing adds such little, like, such a small amount of power, and actually just clogs up your board. Ugh, I don't like it. I could see it, like, no, I can't see it at all.
you shouldn't even try to look at it, to be honest with you.
No, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen.
So Brian Kibler played a Dragon Consort Paladin deck, and he played Ren Blackhand. And I've got to say, it wasn't terrible, right? Like, but it was just stuck in his hand as a non-option for so long until it was finally good. That to me, I just want something more consistent. I don't want to be stuck holding a dragon because I want to be able to activate him. Now, he played a couple more dragons than I did. I think you can, especially at this point in Dragon Consort's card pool that it has to choose from. I don't think it's right to be very dragon heavy. Like, you can get away with 5 dragons, 3 dragons, 4 of them, and Consort's still just dumb. But so anyways, he went a little heavier on him, which kind of enabled him to play Ren Blackhand, and he also was playing the Technician, which I did not play. So it was just something to consider, that we might have been wrong to just completely mock the guy and laugh at him, but at the
I don't think
same
we were
time,
wrong for it. But
right? Like, I don't know. We just didn't allow for the fact that it might be marginally good at certain points in the metagame. And even then, like I said, I'm still not convinced that it is, but I'm now allowing for the possibility that there's a day and time when I have a Ren Blackhand in my deck and don't hate myself.
yeah, I could see it as much better for tournament play, where, like, oh, this is going to be good against the warrior deck, or I'm playing the priest controlled mirror or something. I don't know, where you're going to want to hit a Ysera or I don't know, some big legend, like it. Just having it randomly in your deck to, like, hit their Dr. Boom is really not that great, right? Like, it just basically trades 1-for-1 with the boom. Like, the boom bots can pretty easily take this guy out. He just, the problem with him is, like, unlike BGH, where if you play it on curve and kill their guy, like, you get pretty big tempo, and if you don't have a target for BGH, you're at least playing like a marginal minion. This guy is just a really bad minion without any of the pumps.
Right.
Not to mention, if you don't have a dragon in your hand and they have a legend out, like, you're just screwed even more. Like, you need to have the dragon, and if you know that in the matchup you need him to kill like one of their legendaries, then you need to wait to have him and a dragon. Like, you have to like not play a dragon. I don't know. It just seems like he's hitting too many of the no-nos to really want to be a strong include.
Yeah.
I don't fault anyone for trying him out, but I don't think he's right at this point.
And Volcanic Lumber, I'm completely out on this card. So John, say whatever you've got to say, and then we'll talk about the heroics.
Yeah, I was completely out on it, but like just the playing the class challenge for him, like he costed like 2 mana like pretty easily in like the like tokeny style deck that they gave you. I think that he has potential in a deck like that, though I don't know that that deck is good right now. That's as much as I'll say about him.
All right, so the bosses this week were Almach. There was also Drak and Rend. So they had the 3 encounters to fight. And I did them all on Heroic, and I gotta say this week had me very disappointed with one of the encounters, but it wasn't the first one, which was Amok. His hero ability would kill a random creature of yours every single turn. So
Yeah.
the first thing that came to my mind was like, well, Muster for Battle seems overpowered, so I might as well just do that, have the awesome hero ability, just wait to win a couple coin flips in a row and maybe get some value. And then I thought, but that's the way they want me to go. So I don't want to go that way. You can play multiple minions a turn to fight this guy, or you can play no minions at all and fight this guy. So I was trying to make it work with Milrogue. I get the sense that it's certainly possible. Okay. I don't know that I built it right for it, and it was, I was running out of time to be able to play test a little bit with the new cards, with as I'm want to do every single Thursday apparently. But so I ended up just switching and playing a paladin deck, and I just played all the guys that give you an extra minion when they come into play, like even like the dragon wing technician guy that like
Just
makes the little
me and
well.
Mr. Bitey.
Sure.
Hope that wasn't your card.
No, it wasn't. I'm only allowed to pick playable cards because those are
Playable
supposed to be the
arena.
only ones you know. But just beating it really simply with that. You also play like Nerubian eggs, things like that, like things that reward you for having your creatures die are always strong. So keep that in mind. That's a really easy way to kind of knock out that heroic.
Yeah.
The second one, Drak, was just the terrible encounter. I thought it was a lot of fun in the non-heroic version when everybody's capped at 1 mana and everything costs 1. So you just,
Really
you're
fun game.
It's type 4 magic, right? Type 4
Right.
magic is
Yep.
unlimited mana, 1 spell a turn, and it had its appeal to me, and I really enjoyed it.
It's
And-
really fun.
And then the heroic version comes out, and it's stupid. Because everything still costs only 1 mana. You're still capped at 1 mana. He, however, is capped at 2 mana.
Ooh.
So he gets to play 2 spells a turn in his Type 4 format. So it ended up, like, I'm sitting there like, how the hell do I beat this? And I'm just playing with my deck full of ridiculous, absurd cards. And I go, turn 1, Sylvanas. All right, fine. Turn 2, I play and draw Kel'Thuzad.
That seems
And
pretty good.
smash Sylvanas into a 7/7 guy with Divine Shield, steal a 7/7, and now my board's 7/7 Sylvanas, Kel'Thuzad.
Yeah.
And then he goes like flame strike, kill everything, laugh in your face, and reset the board, and then I got destroyed.
Wow.
So I tweaked the deck a little bit, really looking for ways to kind of abuse Kel'Thuzad, and then obviously what comes to mind when you're trying to abuse Kel'Thuzad is taunt creatures. So
Right.
I found a board state where I have a taunt creature and Kel'Thuzad on the board, and the boss has like 82 huge creatures, and I'm already dead, right?
Yeah.
But the guy just like does an attack and passes the turn. And I'm just like, what the hell just happened? So it became my whole game plan because I can't beat this deck in a normal fight. So now I spotted bad AI for him, and I'm just trying to abuse it. I get to the point where I'm playing Rogue, And my whole game plan, because now he's got a lot of these like single kill spells, like kill your guy, gain 10 armor or something stupid. Yeah. And I'm playing out this strategy, and I'm just like trying to Master of Disguise the Kel'Thuzad. Like turn 1, Kel'Thuzad, turn 2, Master of Disguise, turn 3, Taunt. You can never kill Kel'Thuzad. You will never attack into my Taunt creature while I have Kel'Thuzad. I win. Right. I assemble it like the second game. And he goes Flame Strike, and I just freak out. I was so mad.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable. Then I killed too much of his board when I assembled the combo, and he played Destroy All Minions, the Warlock. Twisting Nether, yes. Yep. So it was just a nightmare, and I eventually, after like 452 games, just played it out, didn't do anything stupid to help him, and he didn't have double Flame Strike, so I got there.
Yeah. I beat it the first time I played it with just like a Druid deck that I just put every card that cost 7 or more in the deck and just played like a basic game and won like in a basic fashion. It was really boring.
The heroic or the normal?
In heroic. Oh wow! Literally the first game. It was like. I was like, wow, this was stupid. And then people are telling me that he has all these crazy spells and that he does all these crazy things. And I'm like, huh, I guess I just dodged that on the first try.
I just didn't see those. Cool.
I kind of wish I didn't, because I think it's a fun little puzzle to play. Like that, like you said, that type 4 Magic style game is a really fun game to play. But when you once you beat it, it takes a lot to go back and redo the heroic puzzles unless they're really fun. So it's like, I'm not going to go back and do it.
I would never redo that heroic puzzle, but I don't think it was fun at all. I thought it was dumb. I don't like spot the bad AI and unveil it.
Oh, no, that's really stupid that happened, but it's kind of fun. I did see someone, they go turn 1 Sneeds. He goes like turn 1 something. He goes turn 2 Kel'Thuzad. So he the guy playing has Kel'Thuzad and Sneeds out. The heroic boss kills the Sneeds. It pops out.
Kel'Thuzad.
It pops out. Major Domo Executus.
Oh God.
He then kills it and dies the next turn.
Oh, so, never lucky.
Those funny little interactions are always good. I also saw people posting on Reddit about how they wanted to build a deck where the only minion was Major Domo, and because apparently he has mind games in his deck, so when he mind games, he would automatically get Major Domo, and then just like cheese kill him like that.
Oh my goodness. That might be the greatest thing I've ever heard.
There's your revenge kill right there.
Right? Maybe that is the reason to go back and redo it. So kudos to them for finding a cool way to do it. Anyways, we have one more fight. It was Rend. In normal, he pumps out an army of 1/1. Sometimes they have taunt. Sometimes they don't. And there's more of them. Other times, surprise, it's like an 8/8 or something stupid. Yeah. So he just had a series of broken hero abilities that he would randomly cycle through as he used them. The way I attacked this in Heroic was simple. I just played Freeze Mage. There are 2/2s in Heroic, so Explosive Sheep is in fact broken. And I had a pretty easy time of it. Did not have too much trouble at all. It was difficult. I mean, if you didn't have the draw, I didn't one-shot it by any means like I have with some of the other ones, but I played, I saw the strategy was good, and it took a couple more games to get there.
Right.
So that was last week in BRM, which there was some good heroic stuff, but the cards were kind of lackluster. So now we're going to talk a little bit. We've got some things to discuss about what happened this week, and then we're going to go in and talk about next week's. So we're going to kind of break up the BRM talk a little bit for you guys. This week, John, Gfinity had their 2015 Spring Masters. I think it was Spring Masters 1. I didn't include the number because I wasn't positive. But
there's so many tournaments in Gfinity Spring Masters and Cups and Masters and Legendary Series. It's like, I don't know what there is.
Right.
Like Magic, there's like the Star City Games Series and the Grand Prix Series. And then like anything below that is roughly a local tournament. There's not like 10,000 online cups that qualify you into different things, and then
well, they don't stream them; they're just Moxes, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So this way, yeah, to me, it's just like, did you watch the tournament that was this weekend? Because they don't overlap. Like, they're smart. They
Right.
stagger each other out. They're not competing for viewers on Twitch and things like that. Nobody
Yeah,
wins when they do that. So they've
that's
been good
true.
about monopolizing all the viewers.
Right.
So Firebat took down this tournament. Another big win for Team Archon, as John mentioned in our notes in our discussion beforehand. It's him or it's Orange, and they're winning one of
Yeah.
these events all the time. Firebat currently sits number 2, Orange number 10. John, why do you think these two guys are? I mean, is Amaz so good at coaching that this is what happens?
I'm not 100% sure about Firebat. I mean, he kind of like I kind of figured that like oh this like at the time like relatively unknown guy, wins BlizzCon. Like he probably grinded a bunch. Like he's like an 18. He was like 17 or 18 at the time when he won BlizzCon. I don't know. Like young guy wins BlizzCon. I'm like, yeah, this is the I guess it was the second BlizzCon tournament, so it's like he's one of the early guys. Like you don't remember who won any of the early pro tours. It's like this guy will probably fall off. Like we'll never hear from him again. He's basically just been grinding
Who doesn't remember John
constantly.
Finkel?
John Finkel didn't win pro tour
He
one.
won all the pro tours.
He won a lot of pro tours, but he didn't win pro. He did not win pro tour one. Um, but like he's just been playing consistently and testing with good players, and I guess the connectivity of the online community and the I guess willingness of people to work together on decks and work together on testing has really allowed the better players that put the time in to really shine. I mean, we knew about Orange. I mean, we called Orange a while ago. Um, in terms of being one of the better players in the world, but he was a Magic Online grinder. That's basically all that you do is you just grind the matchups, you test, you get better, and it seems like that's really paying off. These two guys, it seems like every time I hear a tournament, it's like, oh, who won? Oh, it was Firebat. Oh, it was Orange. They put up these consistent first places, and the only people that really that I recognized from the top 10 were like uh, life coach is in there, but he doesn't put up the same sort of results in terms of first places. He'll consistently top 8 every event, but it's not like oh life coach won, oh life coach won, life coach won. It's like oh let's look at the top 8. Oh life coach is definitely in it.
Right.
And it's like it's first or nothing for the other guys. It seems, which is it's kind of interesting that players would be like that.
I think
Like
it
life coach is
stems
really
from
consistent.
I think it stems from like their deck selection, right? Like
Yeah,
the
probably.
the oranges and the archons are playing so many games that they know the meta so well that they're able to have that counter. You know what I mean? That thing that
Right.
or that wrinkle in their deck that nobody sees coming and is super good against all these different tournament decks. Um,
That's true.
yeah, so I think it's kind of that style. Whereas Life Coach is like, well, I'm not going to not bring Druid. It's the
Right.
best deck. I'm
Druid
going to
and
bring it.
Handlock just consistently win the 80%, but
Right.
if they have the deck tweaked to them, they're not going to win. He's not going to win. Yeah,
Right.
that actually makes a lot of sense.
So to me,
It's kind of
that's
interesting to think about what you should do in terms of trying to win a tournament or be like a consistently good player.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting discussion to have, though I don't know if we prepared enough to go that in depth, and we also probably don't have enough time to go that in depth into it.
well,
But it is interesting to think about.
yeah, the time's definitely I think the bigger factor there because that's what I wrestle with every tournament. It's like which do I want to be?
Right.
Do I want to be the Swiss Army knife that's just it's do I think I'm the best player in the room? I think is what it comes down to. If I'm the best player in
Right.
the room, I'm bringing the life coach strategy. If I'm not, and I need to rely on the RNG, I'm going to play that spicy deck that they don't know how to play against, and then I win
Right.
my coin flips and you get crushed.
Right. And I guess it's also not necessarily RNG in terms of the actual game. It's the like randomness of did I predict the meta correctly, or was I one level too high, one level too low, and then you kind of you're like, oh, this is going to be a heavy control meta. This if it's control, if this tournament people bring a lot of control this tournament, I can't lose. And then you play against Face Hunter in round 1, you're like, well, I that's the risk I took. I'm gonna not even top 8, but if it was control, then I'm gonna win the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it looks like they've kind of taken that strategy. Whereas life coach is like, yeah, I don't really care what I'm playing against. I'm gonna get seventh place at every tournament I play in. Which is like monetarily is probably a pretty good strategy.
I was gonna say that's probably better than just aiming for first every time. But anyways, so
not there.
we have one more tournament to talk about, and this one's upcoming, and I'm really, really excited about this one. So I want to talk about it and give it a little hype. I can't imagine now. We do have some European viewers on the YouTubes and things like that. So, if you're anywhere in the area, I really highly recommend you try to make it out to this event because it's an open. It's a Grand Prix style. It's basically a Magic Grand Prix for Hearthstone. There's no invitations, 0. So if Firebat wants to go, he has to be one of the first 128 people to come and sign up.
Wow.
Yeah. So $40,000 is the cash prize. Over 2 days, they will do Swiss rounds. And after the end of the 2 days, and I'm not sure if the top 8 will be on the second day or if it will carry over to a third day, but then there's your single elimination style tournament, and this to me is phenomenal. This is what me and John I think have both wanted to see. These are the events I want to compete in. I'll travel to these. I don't care. I'll go, sign me up. Absolutely. How much? Let's go. I'm not going to Switzerland or wherever this one in particular is, but I can hope that some U.S. company wants to back a tournament in New York City, and then it's not unreasonable for me and John to go down there.
It would be unreasonable for us not to go.
I would consider it very unreasonable not to attend such an event.
Especially since we'll be casting it.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, we're clearly super popular by then. And by then, I mean next week.
Speaking of which, we're announcing the Grand Prix New York City Hearthstone tournament.
Hey, I've hosted some like 9-man tournaments before. I got this. So I don't know how it's working as far as bring your own computer, don't bring your own computer. iPads were invented, so I assume if it's bring your own computer, it'll be just fine.
Also Hearthstone is on the phone now, so there's that.
Yeah, you really think that's going to help a lot with the viability of Hearthstone tournaments. Having played with the app, I think it is a phenomenal casual tool. Phenomenal get your quests done while you're on the road traveling or on vacation or something like that tool. I think it's super cool. I'm so happy they did it. I would never do a tournament on my phone.
If you would have asked me at the onset of Hearthstone before the iPad app came out, and I was playing in beta with only computer for the first 3 months, I would have said the same exact thing. But having played the amount I have on my iPad, and then I've only played a few games on the phone, but just seeing the app, if I had a good enough phone, I would play in a tournament on the phone with the thought that the top 8 was going to be on a computer anyway. I would play the Swiss rounds of a tournament on my phone. It's really not that much different than the iPad. And if I was used to the interface more, I would do it. I mean, I played the last 3 weeks exclusively on iPad. So.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not that much different. The only thing is I'm really glad they did the way they did with the pop out hand and all that.
Mm-hmm. That helps with precision, which is my huge issue, which is just precision of clicks and actions.
I mean, I've fat fingered enough things on iPad, but I've also mouse clicked things just because of the way the cards move sometimes and going too fast, and some cards you have to target, so in your mind you're like, oh, I have a second to kind of think about this, but other cards don't target. So if you play a spell out like a consecration or something and you let go of it too fast, that card's getting cast one way or the other.
Yeah.
So you got to be precise on the computer client too. So I'm actually not. I actually think it does open up the viability of these real life tournaments. Because I think that it's not that unreasonable to play on the phone. So.
Yeah, the only real the main issue with the phone that doesn't break down to the width of my fingers, is basically just when I was hovering a spell, like it was, I want to say it was an abusive sergeant. I was playing a zoo at the time, trying to do a quest, and
Yeah.
I'm like hovering with this abusive sergeant, and decided I didn't want to cast it,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what to do.
Right. I mean, you're not gonna go into the tournament having never really having not played on the phone before, and then just play a Swiss event. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't suggest doing any of them, like any tournament with any format without knowing the interface, right? Like,
That's what makes me nervous, because I see these top 8 machines and they seem to mostly be touchscreens. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
But I think my next big purchase is going to be a all-in-one PC, which is like a touchscreen style. I don't know. My buddy John has one down in Erie. Next time you're down there, have me show it to you or whatever. It's basically like the ideal gaming machine, in my opinions. Like if you're somebody that likes to travel, go to fireside gatherings or just LAN parties for other things, it's really, really, really awesome to have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not really familiar with it, but
Yeah,
sweet.
I'll have to show them to you. They're really cool, but I don't think functional and like the high end thing. Like a lot of them have like onboard graphics and stuff like that, so they're kind of limited. But John's does pretty well. Not too many games he would want to play that I don't think he could play at the moment. But we'll see over time whether or not they get better than his device. All right, so moving on, we're going to start to talk about this week's wing, and oh man,
It is a whammy.
so we get 5 cards in the basic wing, and the bonus here is that only one of them sucks.
Whoa. Yeah, you're probably right.
All right, so John's not super out on revenge. He's still holding on to some hope, and I'll let him talk about why, as he's really been playing the Grim Patron deck more than I have recently. So
Yeah, so when we first reviewed the card, we were like, yeah, it's not playable. Like it's like I believe we said, unless you want a deck that has 4 whirlwinds, you're not going to play it. And then we were like, and in that case, you're playing the unstable ghoul. Like, it is feasible that you actually want 2 whirlwinds, 2 unstable ghouls, and 1 of these, or 2 of these. I don't think you do, but I could see it being possible that you want to play one. Wind effect is so strong with the Grim Patron, with Frothing Berserker. When we were doing the initial review of the cards, when we got everything spoiled, we kind of didn't know the, I guess, the breadth of effect that Emperor would have. So, like, he's like, when we looked at the cards, we didn't really think about like what effect Emperor would have on him. So, this being just an actual whirlwind is definitely a possibility. The problem is that if you happen to be at 12 or less health, then it instead just kills your own board, and that's really not good. So maybe you don't. Maybe it doesn't make it in the cut just because it could screw you over. And the list is kind of tight anyway. I don't even really know what you would cut for it, but I think it is theoretically possible that you want that additional whirlwind effect, and you might want the additional immediate whirlwind effect because sometimes you don't have the ability to trigger the unstable ghoul. So theoretically playable, but not a windmill slam, not a whirlwind slam in your deck.
yeah, and I'm personally just of the opinion, like, I don't think right now you're seeing decks play 2 whirlwind, 2 unstable ghoul, and 2 inner rage. And I think there's an importance to balancing the single target deal of damage cards and the AoE deal of damage cards to really help you explode on that combo turn. So it's like John said, there's a universe that exists out there where you want that many 1 damage sweeps, and it might be super far down the line, to be honest, when some maybe right. Token Druid makes some ridiculous comeback or something like that, and their Face Hunter's still around, because of course it'll never die. I'm pretty sure Unleash the Hounds will cost 19 mana by that point, but it'll still see play. Yeah, there's a universe that exists where it is playable. I just don't think we live in it right now, like John said
Yeah,
either.
there is a list that I saw from professional Magic player Li Shi Chen. He doesn't really do anything in Hearthstone besides just play out like casually. Well, by casually I mean he just doesn't stream and do tournaments. He still gets legend because he's a really good card player. He was playing a list that is like none other that I've seen. It is like completely combo oriented. It runs basically every single minion that draws a card on Death Rattle or come into play and focuses entirely on the combo. Doesn't have any of the mid-range elements. I don't even think it had I don't even think it had Grom in it. I think it was just Grim Patron and one Frothing Berserker to kind of, and the rest was like, I mean, it had the base pieces, obviously the Whirlwinds and the Death Spice and stuff, but it didn't run Armorsmith, didn't run any of those cards that would be more of a mid-range build to kind of have a plan too. It was just a bunch of minions that draw you cards, and then you draw into a combo, and you go off in 1 or 2 turns or whatever, like you can do. And I think that in that style of shell, this card might be there, might be playable, but in the mid-range version, probably not.
So I didn't actually read the card, so anybody that's listening and not able to watch, Revenge is a 2-mana spell for warriors that deals 1 damage to all minions. If you have 12 or less health, deal 3 damage to them instead.
That also brings back my original question. It says deal 3 damage instead. So does that mean it deals 3 damage to everything, or do you just get to target deal 3 damage? It's kind of ambiguous.
It's not that ambiguous. We all know
But
exactly what it does.
You'd think that. But if you read Quick Shot, it just says deal 3 damage, which is exactly what this says. So, I mean, I have almost no hope that it actually does that. But there's a glimmer.
He's mostly trolling me, I think, is what's happening. But the next the next card we'll talk about here is a 3-mana 2/4 for mages called Flamewalker. After you cast a spell, Flame Waker. Oh man, I don't even know how to read. After you cast a spell, deal 2 damage, randomly split among all enemies. As I was reading it, I understood why you laughed. Long time ago, John Blevins made up a rap. Him and some friends made up a rap about me, and it's terrible. And just
Jim Reed, Jim Reed, Jim Reed, Jim can't even read.
Yep. So that's it. It's a terrible pun on my last name, but anyways, it's out there in the world nonetheless, and now it's on the internet, so it's real. And we'll remix it and auto-tune it, I'm sure. Anyways.
Jim can't even read.
But Flamewalker is a card me and John have both... Hey, Waker. It's Flamewalker now, and for all time...
It's funny because the flavor text of the card references that people are going to call it Flamewalker. So it kind of got you before it even came out.
Those bastards. Anyways, so we've been really excited for this card's application in the Tempo Mage deck that I played a little while back. It does a really good job of assisting with making all the other cards in your deck better, right? Like, it's just this added value to everything else you do, on top of it being a solid body. I mean, it's a 3-mana 2/4, so it's not the greatest, but Imp Gang Boss does a good job of pressuring the board. We're seeing Gnomish Inventors see a lot more play, and those have a 2/4 body, but yet they manage to do some work in combat. So, John, what are the cards you think are going to change in the Tempo Mage deck that we've seen? What are they going to do now that they have this?
Well, I mean, you're not getting rid of your Frost Bolts, your Fireballs. Unstable Portal gets even better, although that kind of has been a mainstay now. It's possible that we're going to start seeing Arcane Missiles. Just the ability to do 5 instead of 1 is just insane. The fact that Flamewaker can hit minions is really huge. And the one mana 3 damage randomly split is kind of you're really rolling the dice. If you hit it wrong, you're really far behind, and the deck really relies a lot on its tempo. But with this, you're stacking the odds a lot more in your favor, and you're really not going to miss out on the tempo. Coin is probably going to see a lot more play. Oh wait. Coin is going to get a lot better. You're going to be holding your coin probably a lot more. Let's go in turn 3 this. Turn 3 this, coin into arcane missiles. Like, that's... I mean, you're probably not going to want to do that because they're probably not going to have too many minions out. But if they do,
I'm definitely going to want to do
that. Yeah, it's just really good. We already kind of saw, or we kind of predicted that maybe muster for battle is going to kind of phase out because we're going to see people go more the dragon route than the quartermaster route. Well, I think Flamemaker was going to make that decision for them one way or the other.
Yeah, it's certainly possible.
For battle's really getting eviscerated. You know,
it's a really inefficient use of eviscerate. You're just throwing 3 damage away. You could have just attacked with your weapon.
All right, I'm just gonna disconnect the call now. We're gonna end the podcast. Bye, guys.
On such a high note, we gotta ride this out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the zoo lists are going to kind of get toned down because of this. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to do all that work with just one card. I mean, he's still kind of lackluster if you don't have the spell, but when you do have the spell, he's really, really good. He's good early, he's good late, he's good mid-game. So really solid card, definitely going to be a player. I don't think anyone is really questioning whether this is going to be playable or not. It's just how insane is it going to be? It's really the question.
Well, yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you there. I definitely think it's on the ridiculous side, and going to be an auto 2 of inclusion in Tempo Mage, and I think Tempo Mage is going to get a lot better because of this card. I'd kind of asked originally, and you know, what you thought people were going to take out. I think the hashtag secret package is going to come out. I don't think you'll see the 3 mana 4/3 that makes your next
your favorite card.
Yeah, Kirin Tor Mage.
I don't know, because Kirin Tor Mage. I don't know, because it actually, that card is really good with this card. So you know, you play on 6 mana, you play this Kirin Tor Mage, and you play a secret, and you get to shoot for 2. Like, you know, it's really not that. I mean, it's a stretch, but they do kind of work hand in hand.
I mean, that's like a carded... Oh, no, I mean, that's... Kirin Tor Mage is a pure tempo play, so... right. I mean, it's very possible that we do still see it, and there could be both versions. I mean, there's times... You see Tempo Mage played right now, and there's no secrets. Right. You know, same thing with... It's more popular, I think, with Mech Mage for them to phase out the secrets, but it opens up the possibility for it, too, because you need to make room for those arcane missiles that you want to bring in, because they're so much better. So it'll be interesting to see how this is played. I will be messing. There's so many decks I want to try as a result of this wing. I don't know how I'm going to find time to play them all, but I have a feeling it's going to be a very Hearthstone heavy weekend for me.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, we're going to have to get you streaming some this weekend too. Get that started.
We can get me streaming tomorrow because I'm off tomorrow. I'm probably going to, fail at it, and then when you get home, maybe.
Nope. I was going to say I'd help you while I'm at work, but it's just been so busy lately. There's probably no way that's true. But anyways, moving on, as we're running out of time in the show altogether and still have so much more to talk about. Hungry Dragon is a 4 mana 5/6. Yeah, I didn't misspeak. It's cost 4 mana for a 5/6 body. A Battle Cry is the downside. Summon a random 1-cost minion for your opponent. We've gotten to see this a little bit as some of the bosses in the wing so far have played it. I think 1, maybe 2. I gotta say, of the pool of guys it can hit, there's not many good ones. So with the stats,
like flame imp or bust,
right? Like that's the only one where it's really even a positive interaction for you, unless you happen to be playing priest and they just give you a free Northshire cleric or something. But yeah, so Hungry Dragon is on pace to look like a ridiculous card. It plays well in the Paladin decks that are running Dragon Consort, things like that, as it allows more of those busted middle-of-the-road turns. It is before Consort in the curve, so it's possible it's not the best fit there. But, John, where do you see this making an impact as we start to play with it?
It seems like we might be able to see a... maybe be a weapon for priest, because it works very well with Cabal Shadow Priest. You just take the minion that it spawned. I mean, that's a pretty good 10 mana play, or you can just kind of space it out. you know, this kind of turns on your mind control tech more. You know, sometimes you know, if mind control tech is seeing more play in the, you know, the wheelhouse of the metagame, people start to play around it. This kind of makes it so that even if they play around it, you can just take a minion anyway. I mean, you know, that's not great, but it kind of mitigates the battle cry of the Hungry Dragon. Um, you know, we might start, you know, he's another dragon in the hashtag dragon package. So we might start seeing some of those if you're holding a dragon cards come into play. The Tinkerling or whatever it's called, the 3/5 has been seeing a non-zero amount of play, and we haven't even seen all the dragons out. So maybe that will, you know, make it into the mix. But I don't know. My instinct says that we're going to be seeing it, Hungry Dragon and Priest, just because of the ability to take control, like literally take control of the small minion that it produces. So it's also worth noting that this guy pops out of piloted Sky Golem potentially, so that's without the downside. So it is, you know, that's a buff for that card. So.
Definitely is one I didn't even really think of, and now that you mention it, it's also has the potential to give you a 4-mana 3/6 named Fireguard Destroyer. Battlecry gains 1 to 4 attack, and it has an overload of 1. This obviously with the overload is a shaman card, so if you did happen to piloted Shredder it out, you wouldn't get the Battlecry, so it would automatically be a 3/6. But John, what is with the like complete overpowering stats on these 4-drops lately? What are they doing? Because this one's impressive.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense because, you know, ever since GVG came out, we've had like a stagnation of just like, okay, every single mid-range deck is running 2 piloted Shredders. It's just the 4-drop. You know, it has weaker stats than the Yeti cards, but it's just the value is just so high. The ability to, you know, trade up and then still have a guy left on the board, and possibly an even stronger guy on the board with, you know, Millhouse Manastorm. You know, Blevhouse himself popping out of the Shredder, you know, and sometimes just the crazy things that happen with Lorewalker Cho or Doomsayer, any of those things. You know,
nothing screws up a good tournament game like piloted Shreddering a Lorewalker Cho.
Right, or, you know, even better, the like, oh, well, my only out here is to hit a Shredder and have it be Doomsayer. Oh, there we go. Well, it looks like we're playing a game 3, boys. But it's just kind of made it so stagnant with, you know, your 4-drop. You know, you only have so much room for 4-drops in your deck. And when 2 of them are almost always going to be piloted Shredder, you really got to kind of step up the 4-drop game in order to have the include. It's kind of like Dr. Boom in the sense that nothing is even comparing to the power level of Dr. Boom at 7. Right. Nothing was really comparing too high unless it was a niche card or class card that was really good. Nothing's really comparing to the power level of piloted Shredder. So having this type of power at a 4-drop is, I think, is definitely good for the diversity of the game.
Yeah, and it is restricted to shamans too, so it has much less potential to just outright destroy the mana slot. And also, it's do or die time for shamans because they've got both their cards. You know, after Lava Shock, I said, well, maybe we need that one more overload card to really help Lava Shock unlock some more value as you use it. And you know, this is it. This is the curve. You know, you go Unbound Elemental on 3, Fireguard Destroyer on 4, Hungry Dragon on 5 because you only have 4 mana. You know, stuff like that. Like the curve's together now. So if there's a way for Shaman to do it, now's the time. They've got to get it done. So we didn't do it last time because we were just rushing through the terrible cards, but we're gonna hold it tight on the legendary and talk about these 2 class cards that we get to play with. And what you said when we talked about the Dark Iron Skulker, which is a 5-mana 4/3 with Battle Cry to deal 2 damage to all undamaged enemy minions. What you said, John, when we talked about this is stuck in my head, and I can't stop thinking about it. And you were like quoting somebody else anyways, but it's just
Yeah.
backstab all the things. Like
Yeah.
die everything. I can't, and that's really what the theme on both of these cards, but the Skulker to me is I mean, I'm going straight to Rogue on Thursday after I unlock the cards. Like that's where I'm at, and I've already shown John the list. Ask in the after show if you guys want to see it. We can look at it and talk about it. And it is like a week 4 specific list. Like I'm not including week 5 cards in it, and I do think there will be an inclusion from there into the Tempo Rogue deck that I'm building. But John, talk about just the value behind this card, because the stats themselves, 5 mana 4/3 means he's terrible. But what is the power of that hero ability?
Yeah, it hasn't really been the case lately because of Rogue has just been all in on Oil Rogue. Basically, there hasn't really been too many other variants, but inherently the matchup of Rogue versus Hunter should favor the Hunter, because the Rogue should theoretically have to use its hero ability to attack the minions to kill the minions for Hunter. And if Rogue is dealing damage to itself, then Hunter is going to be favored because of its reach, obviously. But this guy is kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to wipe your board and have him 4/3. You're up. There are situations where Fan of Knives could be good against Hunter, but if there's a bunch of X3s, it's not good enough. Or X2s or X3s is not good enough. This guy obviously fares extremely well against X2s. This guy is also much better against Mech Mage, which can be a pretty bad matchup for Rogue. Doing 2 damage is much better than 1 damage against Mech Mage, because a lot of their minions are X2s or X3s. So just having you usually need the spell damage in order with Fan of Knives in order to take out some minions. This guy, he already has the spell power on it, so that's quite good. The problem is like you said, a 5 mana 4/3 is pretty underwhelming, and he doesn't draw. And Fan of Knives at least draws you a card. This guy doesn't draw you a card, and it also is kind of a nombo if you already Fan of Knives, because then he doesn't do anything to the guys. But backstabbing everything is so powerful.
Right, like, I mean, to me this replaces Fan of Knives, because Fan of Knives is sometimes just completely dead, right? You're like, I don't care, I'm playing against Freeze Mage, when am I ever going to use this? No, just replace it, just cycle it. Whereas this is different. This has the potential to force a Frostbolt out of your Freeze Mage opponent. It can do a lot of things. It can establish a board a little bit, and I think it sucks Zoo straight out of any game where you get to cast it. I mean, almost everything in Zoo just dies to it.
Yeah, it's quite good against Zoo.
Right, and the same thing with Paladin, like in its current form, where it's playing this, these shielded mini bots. Like you just pop the Divine Shield with your weapon, and then Dark Iron Skulker, and you're fine. He's just does such great work in so many matchups. And then there's other ones where you're going to need to find an opportunity to get some value out of him, but you shouldn't have to try too hard. I mean, he's all about value and tempo. So I think he requires a specific home. But I think Tempo Rogue is largely because of this card, going to make a nice comeback and become a playable ladder deck again, or at least I hope, because it's probably my only chance of getting Golden Rogue anytime soon.
That's true. The problem is that you only have so much room for 5-drops, and Azure Drakes are kind of I don't think that this guy would replace Azure Drake. I think Azure Drake's is too good.
Tempo Rogue doesn't necessarily play Azure Drake though.
I don't know if it's correct, but it's definitely a possibility.
I don't know if the one I sent you did. In fact, I'm fairly positive it didn't this time around.
Yeah, it might not.
But I also squeezed I'm still playing the preps, and I'm playing a sprint. So I'm using other ways to get cards, and also just relying on this really meaty curve and some nice board sweeps. So, anyways,
definitely requires a different style deck, which is I like when classes start to have different styles of decks. I mean, if you see a rogue, it's like, okay, it's oil rogue, or it's mill rogue, and you don't really need to like, it's a joke matchup anyway. But like mage is a pretty robust class. It can be three. There's three very different and roughly equally playable decks that mage could pick.
Yeah, and
There's
fringe
at
ones.
least right. There's three warlock decks that are all relatively tournament playable. Hunter, it's 1.5 now. Shaman is 0. And priest has 1, but like when there's like 3, maybe even in the future 4 different decks, it just kind of makes the meta game, it makes it crazy. And I think that craziness is much more interesting than like, okay, I'm playing against Oil Rogue, or okay, I'm playing against Face Hunter. It's like, oh, what could it be? It makes decks that aren't necessarily as powerful, like inherently more powerful, because of the surprise factor. So.
Well, the next and last card we have to talk about that we're all going to get to play with tomorrow is Demon Wrath. It's a 3-mana Warlock spell that does 2 damage to all non-demon minions. I was surprised John was as down on this card as he is, and I think it's pretty good. I'm not at all excited about it because I'm not much of a Zoo player. If I have to play an aggro deck, I'm fine playing Zoo. But I do think it's good, and I think it's going to start to flesh out this more aggressive demon style Zoo that we've seen coming out recently. I think people will commit to it more, play the the floating watchers and things like that. I think this is where they'll start to come out, or I'm just wrong and not they're not going to come out, and then this card will be like mediocre at best, and it'll be like a meta inclusion where it slides in and out. Where do you see its usefulness, and how often do you expect to see Warlock decks play this?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I haven't played Handlock in a while, but I feel like you might want this. It might replace like a Hellfire or maybe a Shadowflame, though I doubt it will replace Shadowflame. It might replace a Hellfire depending on how early you need the board sweep. It will probably be played in some number in the Demon Lock control / mid-range deck. Once again, depending on what the critical turn for the sweep is and what the critical damage is. This will almost certainly see play in those decks. Zoo, I've had a lot more experience with Zoo than the other decks. For roughly, it's probably the deck I've played the most consistently in my Hearthstone career is Zoo, and the most iterations of the deck too. And I tried recently to play a version that was more demon heavy. It played Demon Fire. That's the name of the card. Demon Fire. Demon Kidney, whatever it's called. I played that card. I played some Mistress of Pains. I was toying around with the idea of running 1x Mal'Ganis and like the Voidwalker pack, #Voidwalker package, or no, Voidcaller package. And just kind of focusing more on demons. I think if that style of deck becomes a deck, then Demon Wrath is going to be played. I don't know if it's going to be, if the best fit is in Zoo, because I want to play my Wolf or Dire Wolf alphas. I want to play my Abusive Sergeants. I want to play my Haunted Creepers and not
Knife Jugglers.
What's that?
Knife Jugglers.
Knife Juggler. Those cards are staples in the board control Zoo deck, and they get a lot worse if you have to, sometimes Wrath your own board. So, I don't know if Demon Wrath is going to end up being better than those neutral cards, but I think that it may branch out into a different, another archetype of Warlock.
Yeah, so we're kind of in agreement. It's only like stone cold playable in a very dedicated demon deck where you have a commitment to the tribe, if you will,
or a Handlock style control deck.
Yeah, where you don't have a lot of guys, right?
Right.
So yeah, and the last card we have to talk about here is Chromaggus. It's the legendary. It's an 8-mana 6/8 dragon dog. Um, and
Just holding
whenever,
on to that until,
oh,
the very end.
I will never let that die. It bothers me. Whenever you draw a card, put another copy into your hand. And it bothers me, but I'm not enough to do the research to find out if I'm wrong or not. And it just was always a dragon, and I just never saw it that way. But in WoW, this thing doesn't look like a dragon. It looks like a core hound. It smells like a core hound. It breathes fire like a core hound. Well, I guess they share that particular trait, anyways. But it's cool that he's actually killed in Blackwing Lair, and this is the Blackwing Lair wing. I don't know. That's about the only matchup in lore as I see it. But nonetheless, a playable Hearthstone card, so I can put my misgivings behind me. And as John said earlier, comes straight in. Like, you turn 5 play Dragon Consort, turn 6 play Cro-Magus, turn 7 profit. Literally, like, you'll double the draw. And just thinking about this card and things like Druid, where, now my Ancient of Lore says draw 4 cards.
Oh,
like, it seems really crazy. And the best feature of this card is the 6 power. This is not something you could just BGH away.
Right.
So
it's got Kel'Thuzad stats, which are arguably the best stats in the game.
It's true. Other than the mythic 6/9, that does not exist to my knowledge.
I don't think so.
No, they haven't made a 420 either, so that's not too surprising, I guess. But so,
every day.
but anyways, Cro-Magus will be something you see a lot because, as John said, some of the best stat distributions you can have for a late game card. This is a control card, though. This isn't something you shove into an aggro deck like Dr. Boom.
Right.
What do you think benefits best from this? Because there's a lot of different applications I think people are going to look to try them in.
I mean, it's definitely, Paladin. We've talked at length of the Dragon deck. I think this guy's an auto-include in the Dragon-style Paladin deck. Druid, depending on its build, always has room for 1 to 2 8-drops. I've been running Sneed. I've at one point run Sneeds and Kel'Thuzad. It's possible that this guy's in that wheelhouse of 8-drops. Like you said, insane to be able to draw 2 swipes. Have access to 4 innervates. It's just insane. And with Emperor in the deck now, the drawing the extra cards is even better. Though if you have Emperor and this guy out, it's it's kind of a win more. But access to that is going to be huge. This guy in like a handlock deck where all of a sudden your hero power draws you 2 cards seems pretty good. He's definitely going to be in the mix, and it's interesting that he cost 8 instead of 9 like the other dragons. So he automatically, like, regardless of his effect, kind of has a little bit of a bump up over the other dragons when you're thinking about what you need. If you just need a good guy, it's probably going to be this guy. Any deck that's running Kel'Thuzad, you got to kind of think if you want this guy instead. Kel'Thuzad, obviously, if you have a board presence, Kel'Thuzad's much better. If you have a deck full of Sludge Belchers and Taunt minions, Kel'Thuzad's better. However, this guy is way better when you've got nothing out. He's really hard to deal with without a lot of power on board, obviously, or a specific kill spell. So if this guy, he's not quite at the power level of Emperor where you're getting that ability no matter what, it's, they've got to put a lot of resources into killing this guy so that you don't draw that second card. And when you do draw the second card and you have this guy out, it's really good. So I think he's definitely going to be in the wheelhouse for any deck that is running an 8-drop.
Yeah, so I think the best place to look for him is in the situations where I know I can get the value off of him right away. I know I can end up positive on cards. The best example is Priest. I can 9 mana Cro-Magus, Power Word Shield, gain an extra card, and be done with it. Kind of replace him. So even if they're Priest and they Shadow Word Death it right away, I'm still getting something. You know what I mean? I got a card to replace it. I did some work. Another place I think is in the past we've seen some control mages that aren't freeze mages. They're giant based, frozen giants it's been called. And now with Emperor Thaurissan, it only takes one trigger of either Cro-Magus or Arcane Intellect being in your hand, where you can then cast them both on the same turn. Opens up different styles of control decks, and if you know anything about me by now, it should be that I love to play control decks. And this is a card I'm going to be playing around with a lot. Super excited. But it's definitely one that will see some play, and Mr. Cleveland in Twitch chat reminded us that Acolyte can already be on the board when you cast it, so right. Control Warrior will certainly find some uses. Yes. Oh, where is she? Got it. I've even got it right here. Yes, there we go. Okay. All is right with the world. We found a way to make that sound happen on the podcast, and we can move on. It only took us an hour. That's probably the longest it's ever taken us to work that in.
The longest it ever will.
Right. All right. So that's really all the time we can afford to to talk about this card, even though we probably could a whole lot more. We're going to be doing a deck tech today on one of Mr. Firebat's decks that he used to win the Gfinity tournament, and that deck is Freeze Mage. Recently, it's been way more popular, and I've read some meta recaps, things like that. And it's essentially been, just something that's way more powerful now than it has been in the past. It's right. A control combo style deck. I tried to group the things together as best that I could. You'll notice up in the top left corner there, you've got the Doomsayer Frost Nova combo and kind of Blizzard thrown in over there. It stays alive with ice blocks and ice barriers. It just prolongs the game as late as humanly possible, gets an ice block up, lives through it, and then Alex Strazes you the next turn, burns you for 15. It's right. It's fairly simple. It can play the late game with Archmage Antonidas as well, and it's just like I said, it's been on the rise. It plays Emperor to kind of really fuel some aggressive clearing that you can do with your Flame Strike, your Blizzards, and things like that. So, we tried to make Major Domo work in one of the after shows recently, and we were pleasantly surprised, right? Like, I mean, we kind of threw it in as like, this is a cool idea, let's try to make it work. And then we were like playing against Warrior, which should have been unwinnable. And then the big trouble we had was finding opportunities where we didn't spend 9 or 10 mana in the turn.
Right.
In order to keep ourselves afloat. So it ended up not quite working out, but there is some room to tweak this. There's lists that don't play Pyroblast and things like that.
I saw a couple people, I think Dog was streaming the list with Mal'Ganis in it, which is kind of interesting. He basically explained it like there's a 3-card combo. It's Mal'Ganis, Frost Nova, and Ice Lance. And you don't cast Emperor until you have 2 of those 3 pieces in your hand. So if you have the the Ice Bolt, the Frost Bolt, and the Ice Lance, Ice Lance costs 0, Frost Bolt costs 1. Then you have Mal'Ganis for 9, Frost Bolt for 1, Ice Lance for 0, and then you can do the math. If you have 2 of the 3 in your hand when you have Emperor, then you can cast all 3 of them. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of like replaces Pyroblast, I guess, because it kind of like, gives you that ability to do 10 damage. It makes you play a little bit different in that you don't necessarily just Windmill Slam the Emperor on turn 6 like you would in almost every other deck. You want to wait for that combo. But going back to this deck kind of being played more than it has been in the past, Emperor really just broke this deck wide open. The ability to cast things that you shouldn't be able to cast in the same turn really benefits this deck more than almost any other, in the sense that you can cast that extra fireball. When you have Antonidas in play, sometimes it's just, I don't have enough mana to cast 5 fireballs. Well, sometimes you do. Right. That's obviously a dream scenario, but being able to cast Archmage Archmage Antonidas, a secret and a kill spell, and your hero power in one turn is insane. Being able to cast Flame Strike, hero power, and another spell is insane. Just being able to piece these things together, that you've always been just that little bit of mana off, where if you could do it, it would be insane. Now it's possible with the Emperor, and the draw power of the deck, makes it so that you're getting even more free innervates off of your Emperor as well. So I've seen a lot of high level players play this deck. It's definitely a very straightforward deck, but not a very easy deck to play necessarily.
Super difficult, I think.
Very difficult. You really need to know the matchup specifically and what's important, what you need to focus on. I have personally had some decent success, but I'm just not good enough for the deck. And the games take a million years usually, but they're usually pretty fun games.
Yeah, at least for you playing the deck. I can't vouch for the guy that sits there with all his minions frozen every single turn.
No, that's awful.
But yeah, listen, like if it weighs wrong to you, there's a lot of scenarios where there's nothing on the board, and the thing you should do is drop Doomsayer. And that's
or when you have a bigger board than your opponent, you still drop Doomsayer.
Right, or you play Doomsayer and other creatures in the same turn. Like these things are really anti.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah, they're counterintuitive. They don't stand out as what you should be doing, but they're 100% necessary to get the most out of the deck. You have to know when to do them, and practice with it a ton. I keep all my mage quests now that this deck is good again. I was trying to get good at it the last time it was good, and I couldn't quite get there. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work and a lot of study in order to be able to play this deck well. It is one of my favorites to play. But like John said, it takes forever. It's not a get to rank 5 with this deck kind of selection for ladder. But it really shines in tournaments. So if you watch tournaments, you'll see it more. And if you play in tournaments, you should know how to beat it. Lothar.
Yeah. Armor up.
Right? Yeah. Or play warrior and never don't armor up, and they literally can't beat you. It's so disheartening from the mage player's perspective. And now, though, they've got that light at the end of the tunnel, like maybe they're Grim Patron. Come on, Grim Patron.
Right.
But anyways, I digress and we move on. Today we're going to be spotlighting Falcon Punch. I like to call him Falcone Punch. I don't know what he prefers, to be perfectly honest with you.
He's half Italian, so it might be Falcone Punch.
Falcone Punch. Anyways, I'll let John do the funny voices, and I'll just stick with English and my normal voice, which is funny enough on its own. So, Falcon Punch is somebody that we've met through Aflex. I've seen Aflex hosting him in the past. He's somebody, I don't watch him a ton, but I just have too many people in my Twitch family at the moment, to be really, learning a ton about these guys as we spotlight them. But I'm never disappointed when I watch this guy stream. He's a very, very good player. As we can see, this screenshot was from a couple days ago. So he's inside the rank 5. He's doing the real grind. Putting in the work, and best of luck to him. I don't know for sure if he's gotten there or not yet, but somebody in my extended Twitch family already. I'm a lurker in his stream, though. He's probably going to be like, what's this guy? He doesn't know me. And I tried to, when we decided to spotlight him, I went in there and I was like talking, and I'm like, I'm out of place here. Like, as I'm typing, I'm like, what do I even say to these people? But John, why don't you talk about your experiences with Falcon Punch so far?
Yeah, he kind of is in the style of stream that I like to watch, where you're interacting with the chat. You're kind of a little bit goofy. He was singing. I love when people sing and they're not like the best singers, because that's exactly where I am. I love to sing, but I'm really bad at singing, but I don't care.
I'm so glad as a streamer. I'm so glad I don't sing. I will like talk along with the words, or like very quietly like be with it, but I don't like want to like belt it out, and thank God, because it's terrible. Yeah, see, I'm all about that. I just will sing anything in falsetto. I don't care. I don't know if Twitch crashed again, but we have 0 viewers now. That's so weird how that
And you've played Heroes with me, and I will sing what I'm doing, like, just subconsciously. So, like, I am getting killed, never gonna live again. Oh, I have to respond. Yeah, like this, like stupid stuff like that. I love doing that, and he was kind of doing that, not to the level of stupid that I do, but yeah, yeah, and quality player, quality stream, overall. Thumbs up. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, like you said, he's in the family of the I think when I was watching him the other day, Rev came into his stream and was like, so I'm making a video and I need to spam your channel, so don't ban me. And he's just like, okay.
Right.
I'll allow it. And then a 2 minutes of everyone spamming, everyone get in here, and it was great. It was cool. So
yeah, so definitely please do check him out on Twitch and on Twitter as well. You'll see us, mention him in the announcement for the episode, so you can follow him that way. I think it's a fairly similar Twitter, and I really need to just start putting their Twitters up on these anyways. But I want to give people like an idea of what their stream looks like and stuff like that. So maybe I just won't, and they can do a little research. But go find him on Twitch. As always, let him know me and John sent you guys, that you're unleashed from the podcast over into his stream. And yeah, so that's Falcon Punch, and we're moving on to the question and answer time, but also Stump the Blevins. We can't forget. I'm getting him this week. I thought I was getting him last week.
I crushed it last week.
Yeah, you got lucky last week. Don't even.
I got lucky. Are you kidding me?
I almost timed you out on Grommash. You didn't even you just barely got there with it. And you were surprised you got it right too.
On Grommash I was, but you tried to wild card me with like one of my favorite legendaries. Come on, man.
Hey,
come on.
That one I didn't necessarily think was gonna get. It was more like if I get you on this one, you'll never be allowed to mention that card to me ever again.
Right.
So if you don't know, the rules of this game is I, Jim, name a card, and John over there does his best impression of the card. He has to get the words that he says right, as well as do a marginally passable impression. I've once thrown a very female voice at him, and he did his best. But it was marginal at best. And we still gave him credit for it, though. It's it's got to be something physically possible for his voice to get to that register.
If I practice enough, I might be able to get Novice Engineer, but it would take a lot of
it was
vocals.
Brutal. And he knew the words, and he knew them quick, so we definitely weren't going to take that one from him. This week, John, the first card I'm going to hit you with, you've been playing with it a lot. You're not going to miss this one, but it's Armor Smith.
Oh. Armor made to fit.
Armor made to fit.
So he nailed that one. Do you know what she says when she attacks?
I have no idea.
Strike.
Oh, yeah.
John can't hear what's actually going through, so I have to do my own terrible impression afterwards. Anyways, though, this is the one where I think I've got an opportunity to try to take him down, and it's Kel'Thuzad.
Minions, servants, soldiers of the cold dark, obey the call of Kel'Thuzad.
Minions, servants, soldiers of the cold dark, obey the call of Kel'Thuzad.
It's so long, I thought I had a decent chance of him just not being able to remember all the words.
Jim, come on.
But he totally nailed it. Do you know any of the other sounds?
I don't know if I've ever had Kel'Thuzad attack. It's the same thing as the Emperor, where if you attack with it, they usually just concede. So
Pray for mercy.
So pray for mercy. Then there's also I shall return.
I shall return.
That's the death, and I don't know, it plays this awkward music. And I don't know, it's other. I never know what this other button means.
Oh, maybe it depends. It might be when he summons stuff. That's what plays. I don't know.
Oh, that could certainly be. But you think that would be trigger? I don't know. Because that's what it says for patron is trigger. Anyways, not relevant. We did not
Get
stump him
Shrek'd.
this week. We
Get
got owned.
Shrek'd.
I thought Kel'Thuzad might get there, but it's tough when you have to pick playable cards, and you know he's so fanatical about it that it's just so hard to get there. So I'm gonna have to start getting a little tricky with him.
We would have to delve.
As soon as
little bit
soon as the last week of I'm making this up completely off the top of my head right now. As soon as the last week of BRM comes out, since it's 6 days later we podcast, every single BRM card becomes up for grabs. So
Fine.
John's gonna have some research to do.
That's fine.
All right. Yeah, so we don't, I think, have any questions or anything like that, so it's no worries, but... Oh, I have an ad playing, and I don't even know where it's coming from. Oh god, I'm so sorry.
Rip.
I literally don't have any web windows open anymore, so I don't know how the heck that happened, but it happened nonetheless. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the podcast this week. Next week, week 11, we'll be recapping all these awesome decks that we've gotten the chance to play with over the last week, since we're both pretty convinced I think the metagame's gonna be flipped on its head. And I'm really excited. Can't wait to see you guys there. Yeah. I'm Jim. That's John. See you guys next week.
That's Jim. I'm John. See you.
I pointed right.
Yeah, so did I. So did I.
We're way too proud of ourselves for that. All right, guys. See you later.
Thank you.